Good morning, Flagler. The doctors are in. I'm Dr. Scott Cleos.
And I'm Dr. Andrea Cleos.
And we are here once again to talk about your health and health issues right here in Flagler, Volusia, in St. Johns County. If you hear some heavy breathing in the background, that is not Andrea. We got Juliana's dog with us this week. Biggie Ray Pauls. And he's a beautiful English cream retriever. And he's doing the radio with us. So every now and then he likes to be real close to Andrea, so he might get up into the mic and breathe heavy in there. It's not Andrea.
And it's not Dr. Scott either.
Well, it might be me. Anytime I sit next to Andrea, I kind of breathe heavy. So, but I was in the gym the other day, and one of my buddies, half jokingly, came up to me and he goes, "What do you think about Robert F. Kennedy and his policy for restricting what you can buy with the EBT and the SNAP programs?" And EBT is electronic benefits something. What is it?
Benefits transfer.
Yeah, electronic benefit transfer. And then SNAP is the supplemental nutrition
assistance program.
Okay.
So they can use their EBT card to be used for the SNAP in SNAP centers or SNAP foods that basically provide for benefits and foods toward people of need.
Right. So, and I don't want anyone to feel denigrated or, it's like a second-class citizen. But I remember as a kid, when you were on food stamps, it literally was food stamps. I mean, you had to go and you had to peel those things out of a book, and you handed them to them. So everyone knew what you were doing. Now with the EBT card, they got a credit card that looks just like yours, an iCredit. So there's no stigmata at all. And unfortunately, and like I said, I never want anyone to feel, embarrassed in public. But at the same time, it's gotten to a point where people just don't care. I always looked at that program as a bridge to independence. And, some people who maybe the primary breadwinner was killed in an industrial accident or something, and they needed something to help them get through to support their family, cancer, whatever. And I'm 100% on board with that. But, now it's become almost like a prize to be able to get on assistance or EBT, and it's a lifestyle.
Not for all people.
No, but in a lot of people. I mean, the program is not working appropriately. And now, if you're going to be back when this food stamp program, you could buy healthy food. There were no prepared foods. There was nothing else like that. You bought food that you went home and you made for your family. And so his push is, if this is tax supported, then it should support healthy nutritional diet where you can go out and buy fresh eggs and meat and chicken and stuff like that to support your family. And he wants to ban buying stuff like sodas and candy. And I am 100% on board with this.
Well, because sugar actually induces diabetes and obesity, and our children have an obesity epidemic, and our adults do too. So unfortunately, soda and candy actually contribute to that.
They're the same thing. I mean, right. Soda is just liquid sugar. Candy, right?
And a lot of the candy has high fructose corn syrup, and it drives, fatty liver disease, just like the sodas drive fatty liver disease, in addition to cardiovascular disease, in addition to diabetes and obesity.
So, the population, the low-income population that uses the EBT and they allow them to buy whatever they want, is the same population, unfortunately, that has rampant diabetes and hypertension and renal failure. So, if we're going to be on the front end feeding these people inappropriate foods that are going to make them sick at a relatively young age, then we're paying for it twice, right? Because we're going to pay for it on the front end for EBT, and then we're going to pay it on the back end for Medicaid. And that's the problem. I mean, we should really be encouraging people to work towards some semblance of independence, and B, try to make themselves healthy so that they can be productive members of society, in my opinion.
Right. No, and when you endorse something that is unhealthy, like smoking, we are making a statement as a country that, we don't care about our population. And if we're providing resources to help them get nutrition, then it's to get nutrition. And soda and sugar are not nutrition. Vegetables are nutrition. Sugar is a bonus that you get as an extra. It's like, dessert. You don't have to have dessert to stay healthy, but you need a healthy plate of food. So, the extras are things that we shouldn't push, especially when they bring about harm. So it's important that as a country and as taxpayers that we endorse things that are beneficial and improve our country, not cause its demise.
Well, 100%. And, again, we live in the Daytona area, and I have a friend of mine who's been doing spring break down here for decades. I mean, probably 5 decades, going all the way back into the 80s. Maybe before, and he's got people down there in the city in Daytona Beach who will approach him all the time and will ask to sell him their EBT card for 50 cents on the dollar. And he says this goes on all day long. And what they do is they sell the EBT card, 50 cents, so it's a $50 EBT card. Say, give me $25, I'll give you the EBT. They take the $25 and go buy cigarettes and alcohol, which is strictly forbidden. So, in my opinion, the system needs to track this. There needs to be some kind of identification to make sure that the EBT is being used appropriately
by the person
individual
that received it.
That it was intended for. There's got to be some kind of identification. I mean, now with the biometrics, every time I turn on my phone, it looks at me and make sure it's me before I can get access to that phone. We have the technology to do that now. So if you get an EBT card, you're going to have to scan something, or you're going to look into something that's going to look at your retina or the shape of your face, whatever they use, and say, yes, this is the person that owns this EBT card, and make people responsible. And again, I just think that it's important, if you're going to have taxpayers, paying for your way of life, there's got to be certain rules and regulations. You can't sell your EBT card for 50 cents on a dollar. You can't eat yourself into sickness and have the rest of us pay for that too.
And sometimes people don't realize that sugar drives dopamine. We've talked about this pathophysiology, and dopamine is that neurotransmitter that makes us feel good. And so when you're depressed and you're struggling financially, you may be homeless, that sugar makes you feel good, but it's not a long-term fix. It's a short-term fix, and it's like supplementing an addiction. It's no different than being addicted to, soda is no different than being addicted to heroin and cocaine. It may not cause an immediate death, but it will cause a long-term time if you continue to imbibe, and there's no regulation over it. So it's very important to understand the complexity and the dangers. People say, oh, well, I'm only drinking soda once or twice. It's not that big. But when you see the impact on people's kidneys and liver, it is big. And it's big over time. And we would never put, I always like to say, water in our car tank, but yet we're putting soda in our body. And so there's just no redeeming benefits of that. That's the problem.
Should we let Biggie talk now?
Yeah. So, it's a big issue when we're promoting things in our children. I know Michelle Obama for a long time tried to take soda machines out of school. And she got so much, argument against getting soda machines out of schools. I mean, why do we have soda? Children need water. They don't need milk. They don't need...
Whoa. Back off on the milk, girl.
They don't. I mean, they need water. Hydration is important. Now, if you don't eat and you don't have breakfast or anything and you are trying to get some form of nutrition, then you can give somebody a glass of milk. But milk is still a lot of sugar, unfortunately.
But it's so good in coffee.
Yeah. So the point is we should be providing what is healthy to our children and what they need, and to our adults that need support to get through a difficult time. So
you support Robert Kennedy.
I do, and I know a lot of people were very mad because he doesn't have an MD degree and he's pushing this Make America Healthy Again.
But he's in great shape.
But he's in great shape, and the reality is I don't know how anyone can argue what we're talking about, and we'd love to have your feedback as listeners.
As long as you agree with us.
No, we want to hear everybody's feedback.
Everybody's feedback?
The other issue is, he took dyes. He's fighting to take dyes out of our foodstuffs. I mean, dyes have been associated with all sorts of problems, all sorts of medical problems. So I don't know how anyone can argue, okay, he's not educated. I mean, he's clearly educated, and you don't need a lot of a brain to actually understand that dyes are not healthy for us. We've been associated with many problems over the years, and pushing artificial sugars on people when we have an obesity epidemic and diabetes problems in our country. It's to me, I feel, people are going to be angry at at any politician because they don't like them or they don't like that
everyone's gonna
political
have
side.
Everyone's going to have their detractors. So, you can't please everyone.
Right.
Everyone's going to not be some segment of the population is going to be upset with what you're doing. You can't, listen to that, vocal minority and change policies just because they're the loudest or they scream the loudest or whatever. But, it makes sense as long as it's grounded in something that's factual and, making people sick with taxpayer dollars is factual. That's not made up. It's something that we can all agree on, that we should probably be helping our fellow citizen
rise to their best.
Yeah. So, not just survive, but thrive. And if you just can pollute them with a bunch of sugar and candy and sodas and things that aren't good for them, they're not going to do well. And, it's going to be a burden on society forever. That's the gift that just keeps on giving, like I talked about before. So, I don't know where we're going to go from here or how much traction he's going to get. Of course, you've got the big lobbyists from the soda companies.
From the soda companies. They're going to just destroy him.
Yeah, they're
going to want to keep destroying him.
Of course.
So it's important if you're a listener and you support this, make sure you make your opinions known on social media and out there and support him. Because it is important. We're not going to make a healthier country or a healthier world if we continue to support things that are toxic to our environment and harmful to people. So I remember several years back, and I think we did talk about this on the radio, but again, it might have been 10 years ago. I remember there was somebody...
Nobody remembers that. I don't remember what we did last week.
Yeah, I can remember. Because I remember there was somebody who, in the grocery, he was in a parking lot, and there was someone who went through the EBT line or through the grocery line and used an EBT card to buy steak. And they bought 2 large steaks or lobsters or something like that. And the guy chased the person down into the parking lot and took that from the person using their EBT card and actually said, "This is my taxpayer money, and I don't even get to afford this. How is it that, you're getting to afford this?" And that's an interesting topic because maybe that person was providing a meal for someone's last meal in their life. Maybe...
there's all sorts of possibilities.
Yeah,
but
I
do think if there is a benefit...
Don't you remember that? Do you remember that vaguely?
I remember some kind of... who knows if it's urban legend or not. But regardless, if the government is supplying you with some sort of benefit, I don't understand why it's so difficult to put restrictions on that. It would be very easy to just say, no, this is not allowed. It reminds me of when the last administration was in power and they said they couldn't protect our southern border without some kind of legislation from Congress. And Trump gets in there, and all of a sudden, we've shored up the southern border, and we're controlling the immigrant. So, a lot of this is political maneuvering. And they'll tell you they can't do this, and they can. If they wanted to, they could do it. But, who knows who's greasing whose palm? I'm sure the lobbyists up there from the Coke industries are saying to their, constituents and their, representatives, don't let this happen, man. I've supported you all these years. If you want the golden goose to keep laying its eggs, you better make sure this doesn't happen. That's going on.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't take much to say, all right, if you're on the EBT program, these are the foods that you're allowed to buy, and it doesn't include Coke and candy. And at one point in time, that was the case. There were certain things that you were allowed to buy with EBT or SNAP or, child and families and women and children, whatever the WIC programs, women, infant, and children. So, there is a way to go about it if we really mean business and we're really looking after the health of our fellow citizens. All right, we're going to take a quick break. If you have any questions for myself or Dr. Andrea, you can email us at thedoctorsin@WNZF.com. You're listening to The Doctors In on WNZF News Radio, 1550 AM, 94.9 FM. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment.
Radiology Associates has been a trusted name in Volusia, Flagler, and St. Johns County for over 50 years. Radiology Associates is the first and only radiology provider to bring our neighbors of Flagler County 3 Tesla MRI, 64-slice CT, and time-of-flight PET CT in our Palm Coast Imaging and Town Center Imaging locations. This is our community. Our doctors live here and strive to provide only the best care to you, our neighbors. For more information about Radiology Associates, visit us online at radiologyassociatesimaging.com.
Thank you so much for recommending us to your family and friends. When you need a 30, 60, or 90-minute massage, it's real easy to book your appointment online. MassageByNatalie.org. MassageByNatalie.org.
Don't even think about climbing that ladder.
We got a guy that'll do it for you.
If you're going to do it right with Benjamin Moore.
We've got the professional painters and the best paint.
Benjamin Moore, corner of Old Kings and Utility Drive.
Palm Coast.
And we're back. For those of you just joining us, we were talking about RFK's policy. He's now going after the EBT and SNAP programs and WIC, I guess. And, he wants to make it so that if you're on one of these government-sponsored programs, that you are limited in what you can buy, in as much as the food that you could purchase has to be healthy. It's trying to induce a healthy lifestyle, which I am 100% on board with. As I said earlier in the show, if you allow people to buy things that are processed, not good for them, they're going to succumb to their bad decisions and choices later in life. And so the same low-income household that is now being supported with the EBT program is then going to burden the healthcare system with their chronic illnesses. So, I do think it is wise to try to start teaching people to eat early. And with this should become some kind of, training program. It says these are the things that are good for you. This is what a balanced diet is.
And it could be easy. In the grocery store, you can go and you can buy this, this, and this. And you can't buy this.
Right,
you can't buy chips.
They used to label this.
You can't. This is SNAP acceptable. You can't buy chips. You can't buy soda. You can buy, certain breads. You can buy eggs. You can buy vegetables.
Right.
Yeah, basic necessities that people eat, but not, maybe not the most expensive. Well, if they wanted to buy an expensive steak, they're just going to use up all their EBT card.
Yeah,
right.
I guess you could splurge. Hopefully, again, it's a bridge to independence. Like I said before, you're going through a rough time, and you want to, get to a point where you don't need the EBT. But if you make it too easy and people can buy whatever they want, there's no incentive to go out and be independent. Right? That's the other problem.
And the other thing is, if the EBT card couldn't be used to buy an expensive steak, for say, then EBT cards wouldn't be for sale. And
no, they sell them so they can buy drugs and alcohol.
They sell them so they could buy drugs and alcohol. But the issue is other people may not buy them, And so, it's you have to minimize and limit how much that EBT card can purchase, so
That's
way.
True.
That way, it's not as exciting for someone to buy with cash an EBT card when they could use their own cash, to go to the store. So,
well, Andrew and I, again, fortunately, we do have the resources to kind of, develop our garden. And we had the guy that put together our food forest in our backyard. He turned our backyard into a producing food forest. And it's really cool. Andrea kind of saw this somewhere and conceptualized it. When the guys came out, we told them what we were looking for, and basically they put together, we've talked about this on the show before, all these berms and these swells. It's alternating areas of elevated land and troughs that collect water, and they measure the runoff of the property and some of the runoff from the roof that we have going into these troughs. And they use that to support plant growth. And some of the plants are producers, and some of them are what we call chop and drop. And basically they capture energy from the sun, and they capture, they produce nutrients, nitrogen and carbon-based nutrients. So when you take those trees and you chop off the limbs and you throw them down, it adds nutrients to the soil. So the purpose of that is to basically provide nutrients to the fruit and vegetable-bearing plants without having to put artificial fertilizers on there. It's almost like a regenerative type farming. And it's really, we've had it for for over a year now, and it's been really nice. I mean, we walk out back and we get fresh fruits and vegetables depending on the time of year it is. And
I had it tonight for dinner.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, there's ways, and I think, those are the types of programs, that they should really support. And in lower income communities, they could put together, area tracts of land that people could then utilize. If they were going to use it to grow, fresh fruits and vegetables, they should be allowed to use that. It's a great way, get rid of all the waste in the EBT programs and actually say, hey, let's buy a plot of land. Anyone who wants to plant their own vegetables and grow fresh fruits and vegetables for their family, they can do that. That's part of this program. And I'm sure if we got rid of the waste in the EBT and SNAP programs and WIC programs, they'd have plenty of money to do that. So, I laud RFK's efforts to try to make, America healthier, but I think they need to go further. It can't just stop at, well, you can't buy this. And he should say, but, what we're going to do in exchange for limiting what you can purchase with the EBT is we're going to have these vast tracts of land, and we're going to assign this part of the land and provide irrigation and all that other stuff. And you can come out and grow your own. And that teaches the next generation how to cultivate, right? How to grow food. I mean, that's one of my fondest memories is when I was growing up, my father had like a little garden that was on top of a hill next to our house that we would go up there, and it was pretty cool to go up and pick your own vegetables that we would cook for dinner. So lots of potential here to make us healthier if we just, take the time to do it. I mean, you look at guys like George Washington Carver, right? I mean, that guy started off as a slave, right? Wasn't he a slave at one point? And he really got into harvesting, cultivating, and became famous over the peanut and figured out, umpteen ways to utilize the peanut for different products, peanut butter and just eating peanuts and all kinds of things. He became an expert and kind of a pioneer of this regenerative type farming. And, we could bring that back. I think the history is amazing. And, we could kind of educate people on what the potential is. And once they see that they can do it, who knows what's going to come of it?
Right.
You get like a little co-op of gardening or something.
Well, we went out to see, there's a farm or there's a place called Dewey World, and it has been involved in helping with rehabilitation. And Dewey actually started many years ago, he's since passed away, helped start AA programs in Flagler County and Palm Coast, and was a very amazing man. He lived a very virtuous life in the sense that he really had a good heart to try to help people with addictions and love them as human beings, which we all should do. And so he has put together a piece of property where he had housing and a common area. And the people that are now running it, his children, wanted to build gardens. And when they heard about Shield of Life and our endorsement of regenerative farming and building food forests, they contacted us and wanted us to get involved in bringing our people like Cam into their property to see if he would come out and...
Cam is the guy that did our
Cam is the one
forest.
Who did our food forest, as Scott said, and come in and actually try to help them. So we walked out to the property. A lot of the property is covered in trees. And so some of that needs to be, but there's some areas that don't have trees that could start very small. And I think that's important to know. We don't have to use large bits of property to create, a mass input of food and food regeneration. There's farmers that do this regenerative farming that have on just half acres feed 6 to 12 to 20 families. So it really is when you understand the process and you learn how to be efficient with the process, you really can make a productive outcome and have a productive outcome that can feed many. And so hopefully, we'll get to work further with Dewey World and building this garden area and make sure that it runs in the form of regenerative type processes. So we're not plowing it. We're not, we're actually building a food forest and not destroying the nature. But if we have to take down trees, we put up trees. But the trees that we put up are going to be trees that are fruit-based. So if anyone's interested in helping out with that in volunteering funds, you can reach out to Hope Project. You can reach out to us at Shield of Life. You can reach out to Dewey World, because I think it's important as citizens in our counties that we help support these types of projects, because they're healthy projects for people in need, to help them not only eat healthy, which helps with addiction, but also live healthy and understand a skill set that then they can take when they leave, and decide to make this, because this is just a bridging area where they just live there for a period of time so they can get their skill sets back on track and get off the drugs and get their feet on the ground. So they would not only have this as a skill set, but they have other things they do in Dewey World to help them learn skills on mechanics and other things they do. They're a pretty amazing outfit there. So again, it's something very special that is happening in Flagler County, and it's something that people of the county and Palm Coast should be proud of, and we should support that.
Absolutely. And Mr. Kennedy, Mr. R.F. Kennedy, if you're listening to the show this weekend, you can redirect some of those government funds towards our efforts, and we will help you make our fellow citizens healthier. That's our commitment.
Amen to that.
All right.
And I'd like to make a quick announcement. We are going to be doing another educational session. We did the mayor's Women to Women lecture, and basically that went very, very well. We had over 80 people and a waiting list, and so now we are going to be doing a September 13th from 10 to 12. It's going to be a Shield of Life presentation on the gut biome. The first hour and the second hour is going to be on pulsed electromagnetic frequency, understanding that science, and having experience on the mat. So it's going to be at the Pentecostals of Palm Coast. That's where it's going to be in their meeting hall. The Pentecostals of Palm Coast, their meeting hall. And that's One Commercial Court, Palm Coast. And if you're interested, please go to Shield of Life website to sign up. And it's a $50 admission, and that helps Shield of Life do more outreach to more people and more places so that we can grow a healthier community.
And just one more announcement. This whole radio show, one of us, once again, was in their underwear. I'll let you try to figure out who it was.
It's a family show. It wasn't me.
Andrea, you keep ruining that. All right. It was me, but that's fine. All right, guys, that's all the time we have. If you have any questions for myself or Dr. Andrea, as always, you can email us at the doctors in doctorsin@WNZF.com. Stay happy. Stay healthy. We'll see you next time. The doctors are out.